All right, it's the moment you've been waiting for. I know with much anticipation, we are starting our new unit on factoring. And so this first set of notes is going to be a review of factoring from Algebra 1, really. So it's all on quadratics. Quadratics are second degree polynomials, so anything where the highest exponent is a 2. So this is going to be kind of a flow chart. You're going to want to start up at the top of your paper and make sure you leave yourself enough room. The very first question you're going to want to ask yourself anytime you're asked to factor a quadratic is, can I factor out a GCF? If the answer is yes, you want to go ahead and divide out the GCF and put the GCF on the outside, and anything that's left over stays inside your parentheses. If you don't have a GCF, that's fine. You will move on to asking, is it a special case? Is it either a perfect square trinomial or a dots, a difference of two squares? Those look like this. A perfect square trinomial is in this format, and it factors very nice and neatly to a plus b squared, or it looks like this, and it factors to a minus b squared, or you have a difference of two squares, which looks like this, and it factors to a plus b times a minus b. If you don't have a perfect square trinomial, then you follow the following rules for factoring. And this is probably what you remember, or maybe don't remember from Algebra 1. You multiply your first number, your coefficient, times your constant. So multiply your a and your c. You want to find factors of that number that add up to your middle term. You're going to substitute that middle term for your first factor plus your second factor. And you're going to group now your first two terms into parentheses and your last two terms. Factor out your GCF from each set of parentheses, making sure that the leftover parentheses match. And then finally, you're going to write your final answer as what you've factored out, your GCFs, and what's left over on the inside. So let's take a look at what that would look like. So the very first thing we do following our flow chart is factoring out a GCF. So in this problem here, 2 would be the greatest common factor. So we put the 2 on the outside and we divide to get our leftovers. The leftovers stay inside. Then we ask ourselves, is it a special case, a perfect square trinomial or a dots? And we have neither. So then we move on to a regular old quadratic trinomial. So we have to multiply our first and our last term and find factors of that term that add up to our middle term. Well, our middle term is negative 7x, so the combination we want is the 2x and the negative 9x. So I replace, or I substitute, my negative 7x with 2x minus 9x, and then I split them into two sets of parentheses, and then I factor out my GCF from each. So 2x would be my GCF here, negative 3 would be my GCF here, and I'm left with matching parentheses now, 3x plus 1 and 3x plus 1. So that's one of my factors. And then my GCFs, 2x minus 3, are my other factors. And I can't forget about my initial GCF of 2 on the outside. So that's the final answer. Okay, so make sure you copy this down correctly, nice and neatly. Make sure you include all these steps. And if you want, label these steps with the numbers over here so you know what we did when, and you can use this as a resource moving forward. That's it. This was all a review of Algebra 1. So if you have questions, make sure you ask them in class and get them answered because we're going to be moving on quickly after this.